J-Law is so sassy, am I right? God, I love it. All right, you guys, that's my cue. Let's bring up the cast, shall we? All right, so everybody ran out to watch the clip, so I'm gonna slowly and eloquently say their names so they go in order. For the love of God, guys, don't mess this up. Sophie Turner! You guys did such a good job, A+. My God, you have this cast wrangled like nothing. They know how to follow instruction and everything. First time director, A+.
We're family.
That's the thing, I mean, I think it shows on screen that you guys are so close, and I suspect that you know each other relatively well. To ease all of us into this panel process, there's a lot of serious stuff in Dark Phoenix, but I also think that it's balanced with a lot of like family and a lot of lighter stuff, and there are great moments between you guys. So the first question that I wanted to throw at you, just down the line, is if Professor X could see inside your head, is there a hobby or a memory or like a funny story that he would see? Right? And feel free to answer for other people too and call them out on things. That's what we're here for.
Memory from the movie?
I mean, it could be from the movie. It could also be from your personal life, and everyone's gonna tweet about it and bother you forever.
Great.
Yeah, love it.
Let's start with Sophie.
I mean, actually, Sophie, I'll just give you like a really easy one to just tee it up for you. Like, tell us the end of Game of Thrones. Go. Oh my God, I love it. You Dark Phoenix me just then.
I'll take this question for the team. And I'll think of one not from my personal life, because that wouldn't interest any of you, but from the movie. Just when we were making this film, you'd be surprised, but the biggest practical joker in this cast is Jessica Chastain.
What?
Serious,
Yeah.
Oscar-nominated, like Juilliard. Jessica Chastain is a menace. She is an absolutely dangerous menace. Don't allow her around your children. She's bad news. And one of the practical jokes she played was on, and Sophie was a somewhat willing accomplice in this, was on Mr. McAvoy, who's a very good target to be practical jokes. And the joke was, there's a scene in the movie where his character is on wires, as you guys know. That's how they get people to fly or move in particular ways that aren't natural for them, and then we paint out the wires and you can't see them. So he was on wires, and the wires are being held by usually people from the stunt team who are manipulating that person's body to move the way they want it to move. And on the last take, after we'd gotten the take, Jessica, and I guess I was an accomplice too because I knew about it, Jessica got the guys she got our sound crew to start playing the song Macarena and to dance James's body around like a puppet doing the Macarena on the wires. So that would be, I guess, my memory for making this movie.
I like that. Are there any good pranks that come up with you guys down there? 'Cause that's the one thing I hear about this cast all the time, is like, so close. People, when cut was called or when the day was called, you guys didn't even go home right away. Like, you kind of hung out with each other. Nicholas, was that the case? Were you hanging with everybody?
Be specific? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we did. You know what? We actually reined in a lot of our pranks, and like we still had a lot of fun. But at the same time, this movie, like Simon was saying, focuses so much on the emotions of these characters and everything. Everyone had a lot work-wise to focus on with their characters, so everyone was a lot more focused as well. I'm trying to think of pranks we played.
Because like the game, there's this game.
Oh God.
He's really good.
That's been ongoing for like years through these films, though. The whole like look at the believe the way.
Yeah.
The airsoft guns.
Oh yeah. We got in trouble.
Okay, yeah.
Dares. We used to do or on Apocalypse, that wasn't it? Dares.
Mostly the Dares on
Yeah, Dares on Apocalypse. What else did we do?
Oh, dares. Nice.
It was odds on though.
Odds on. Yeah, it was odds on. What else? Tequila slaps.
That was actually on the last movie, I want to say.
Oh yeah, that was
Slaps were outlawed in this movie because one of the actors from the last movie got knocked unconscious during tequila slaps. A game, it was just a form of abuse. They called it a game.
Could I ask for some further clarification on a game called Tequila Slaps?
Yeah, you just
You go, Sophie.
you take a shot and then you smack the person across the face.
Okay, great. It is exactly what it sounds like. I love that.
Wholesome. It's very wholesome.
That's perfect. Well, and then flipping the script completely, like Sophie, let's just talk about Phoenix a little bit because, like everybody's been saying, there's a balance here. You know, it's very light, you guys are friends, but at the same time, your character's really going through a lot with this storyline. I mean, I kind of see it, and I have to tell you that, not to make light, but I relate to it because partially it's about a lady getting cracks on her face and being unable to control them, right? So I mean, that's part of it. But can you talk about the difference in preparing to play Jean versus preparing to play Phoenix?
That's interesting. But you're right, the movie is mainly about wrinkles. That's kind of what we were going for with the movie.
Glad I got that, yeah.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, really, the preparation to play Jean and the preparation to play Phoenix was kind of the same preparation because it's not like it's not really like day and night. They're kind of fused together, and that's why there's such an internal struggle. Is because it's these two kind of separate entities fighting each other within one person's body. And so that's what we were kind of going for. So really, we wanted to study schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder to kind of really delve into the psyche of the character and ground her in something quite real and something that will resonate with a lot of people. So that's what we were kind of going for, rather than two separate entities.
Yeah, which really adds a lot of nuance to the character because at all times there's something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I could see a little bit of that in all the cast, I think, a little bit. And Ty, can you talk about that too? Because, I mean, just what's really interesting about just Cyclops' costume is that your eyes are covered. So that's one of your main ways to broadcast what's going on. But there's a shot in that last clip that we saw where you thought she was gone. Right? And I felt that from you. So can you talk about that challenge? Because this is sort of new for Cyclops.
Thank you.
It's like, it's kind of like when in Judge Dredd, like, you know, you can't see a face, but you're getting emotion. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of eyebrow acting. So I just sit in the mirror and like, no, it's good. You know what? This movie is really fun. We've all been saying in some of our interviews earlier that it's fun because these movies they jump from decade to decade. So a lot happens over the course of 10 years, and so you get to explore these characters in different chapters of their life. And so in this chapter, Jean Grey starts to kind of wrestle with this dark force, and it kind of splits the entire team up into two groups, and one who feels that she's still the same person and they can save her, and then the other feels that she's maybe a little too dangerous. So there's some really interesting, complex character dynamics, and I would say the visor is it could be difficult, but then you have like Cody and Nick who have to wear blue makeup all day long and prosthetics on their hands, like someone has to feed them their banana.
I was totally going to ask about that legitimately because in this movie I was like, there's a close-up of Beast and I was like, oh my god, how does he eat lunch? There's a lot of hair right there.
Quite slowly, and I eat a lot of blue hair.
Ooh.
At the end of the day, I have like a furball.
Wow, that really paints a picture, doesn't it? You're kind of like one of the vets of this thing. You're like a utility, I think, because we always come to Beast, and he's such a grounding force, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing about this movie is we've seen him evolve over the past few movies from one of the students wrestling with his identity, and then now being, one of the leaders of the X-Men, but then also stepping away from Charles because of what happens in this film and kind of finding his own resolve and approach to the issues that take place in this film. So you kind of get to see a new side of Beast emotionally in this film, which is what was such a pleasure to play. And luckily, Simon gave me the chance to do that.
Was there a moment during this movie in particular where you were like, I just nailed it? You're too busy coughing up furballs like blue hair.
I think that would be the wrong thing for me to be thinking at any moment.
Understood. Respect.
That's actually not true. After every take Nick does, he's like, nailed it. Everyone. It's under his breath, but everyone can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear you, Nick.
Yeah,
You're mic'd.
Nailed it.
Alexandra, I am always so pumped to see what Storm is gonna do. Yeah. Always.
me too.
Let's keep the vibe of this conversation going, because in this movie, you face new challenges, and I felt physically, I was watching you and I was like, ooh, like, just wait. Just
I
wait.
felt that way when I was actually doing it. Like, what's really fun about doing stunts is like, you punch someone and then they go like flying back, like it really hurt, and then you're like, you gotta like get out of it because you're like, yeah, I'm Storm, and like she's totally used to it, but Alex is losing her mind. It was so much fun, and it was really fun being able to do all the stunts and do like more hand-to-hand combat, and you really kind of get to see Storm really exude more power, and it was really fun.
When I'm looking at these clips, as a non-actor, I take myself out of it for a second and I think about how you guys can't see any of the stuff that we see when you're shooting it. Because I mean, so much of your power is CG and it's added and stuff. Do you, like real talk, do you ever stand in the mirror and practice all your cool superhero stuff?
That's the only way you can do it. Yeah.
Yes!
It's the only way to do it, but it's actually really anticlimactic. Like, you're like, yeah, that was it, but nothing? Like, literally nothing?
Yeah, I think the saddest version of that is when, in the movie it's epic, bam, he goes away, shows up somewhere else, but when it's Kurt, when it's me doing it, bam, I just total off and run behind the as quick as you can, Cody. And roll. Yeah, it's quite awkward.
Nightcrawler is such an important part of the team, and that's something that really comes across in this movie, is how needed everyone is and how everybody's such a functional part. But now that you say that, it actually occurs to me that his usefulness is essentially like him hugging people, right?
Very sweet way to put it, thank you.
There you go.
Great power.
Yeah, he just likes to get a bit of touch in. Nothing too pervasive. Just, yeah.
I love it, man. It's
Adults
like
don't touch each other. Yeah. I know that sounds really weird, but like adults, we don't touch each other. You touch kids, you don't touch adults. What a beautiful power.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
It
for pointing that out.
is. I love it. You got a couple woos with that.
Yeah, that's a little clap.
Yeah, it's like a shout out to hugs. There you go. What's Kurt going through in this film?
I feel like, as we say, you know, jumping the decades, you get to see a form of maturity in him, definitely, that is quite different to what I portrayed in Apocalypse, which was the more innocent, wide-eyed, vulnerable Nightcrawler that we love, and, you know, the comedic relief at points. But in this one, he definitely kind of starts there, but I had an opportunity to portray that more vicious, savage archetype in him that is a culmination and a product of his frustration building up from not being able to know how to fix these internal struggles and the crisis that they're all going through as a team and as a family. So it ultimately crushes inside of him, and that's where we see it kind of connect with, I would say, Alan Cummings' portrayal of the character, which was very demonic and quite aggressive.
Yeah, this is really a different side. There's so much conflict. You can really feel that in the film. Now, speaking of conflict, the bravado of Quicksilver is like one of my favorite things. Yeah, I know. I'm talking to you. Just like that, even that quick moment in the clip of just like, yeah, it's totally me. I did so much stuff. You know, it's like, yeah. I'm like, that's our boy. One of the things that I associate with your character are these amazing sequences with great music.
Yes.
And so I wanted to ask you, just like personally, is there a song that like really resonates with you that you would set your own personal slow-mo sequence to?
Yes.
And you have to get really close to the mic.
Yes.
There you go. I'm gonna crack that whip on you, brother.
I think maybe, do you guys know that song at the end of Mortal Kombat? When the ghosts are coming up? No?
Will you sing it for us?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, go.
I'm just gonna let that sink in. Like I love that. Now I remember the song, like in my head.
It's also the end of Mean Girls as well. If that helps anybody.
Phenomenal.
Not at all, I guess.
Oh my God, there you go. Movie fun fact. Who's a fan? Let's bring it back down here to the end of this table. What's your favorite part of all of these extensive sets that you guys have? Because there's so much that's practical. Like, what was like one of the things you were like, oh man, dude, this is so cool?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's really cool, and it was important to me to do as much practically as possible, like, which means obviously not with visual effects, CG, but to build things. And the reason why is I think one, and the actors can speak to this, but every actor I've ever worked with feels the same. When they have something real to interact with, it's easier to act because they're actually in the space, they're interacting with a real thing. It's one less layer of sort of make-believe that everyone has to do. And then also I think you guys feel it. Like I think there's something when I watch a movie and I see practical effects, practical sets, there's a part of my brain that like makes it feels real to me. Like the physics of it feel real, the dimensions of it feel real, all of that. So there's simple little things in this that you would never know were a set. Like as an example, when Sophie goes home to the neighborhood in which she was raised, it's a street of suburban houses. And in a normal thing, you would probably find a street of suburban houses in Montreal where we shot the movie. But there's some stuff that happens there that you couldn't do to a street of suburban houses without relying entirely on visual effects because you could destroy some houses. And instead of using visual effects and going to a location, we built a city block of suburban houses in the back lot of a parking lot where we shot. So all of those houses that look very real are very real on the outside and have nothing on the inside. That was really cool to me. And I think the other one probably, and you're gonna see this coming up, so I don't wanna ruin it for you, but there's a sequence in New York City, and we built a few blocks of Fifth Avenue in a soundstage. And that's what you were gonna see shortly. And that was cool.
Amazing. On the flip side, so that was some cool stuff that was practical, and Sophie, I would like for you to tell us in great detail, one of the things that I'm always looking for when I'm watching like a superhero movie is like, what is cool that is going on that I secretly want to be able to do? And something that I've noticed a lot with Phoenix, I'm starting to move my arms like this, is that her hair kind of...
Yeah, I
right?
get my own Beyonce fan.
I know we're going to lose some people with a hair conversation, but would you bear with me for a second? Because that CG is so cool.
Yeah.
But what was that like in real life?
It was terrible. They decided, the best way to do it is you have to kind of put like a bald cap on and tracking points for CGI. So, and one part of my costume is like this purple coat with this huge collar that kind of comes up like this. And I've got this bald cap on, and I look like Megamind. It's terrible. It's like, you don't feel cool, you don't feel powerful, you look like an idiot. It wasn't that fun. And they had me on this thing that not in the reshoots, but when we were originally filming it, this parallelogram, where basically like, it was like a seesaw. One end had weights on it, and the other end was just like a bike seat. And so I would kind of sit on this bike seat with my legs out straight, my Megamind top half, and they would just like seesaw me up into the air. And it would just be the most painful, humiliating experience. But it looks really cool at the end, so I don't mind. It's a good visual.
It works. In the end of the day, it works. So
Yeah.
it's like, thank you for going through all that.
No problem.
Shame on you for putting her through that.
It's for the good of the movie.
Yeah, there you go. Ty, I've always wanted to know, we're talking about the visor. It cuts off your peripheral vision. What are you actually seeing through it, right?
Yeah, you.
Like, what does it look like?
Well, it's this one. The last movie was a lot of the peripheral vision. You couldn't. It's like looking in a tunnel, and then this one is like looking like this. So you trip over shit. The stage you're always shooting on a dark stage, and like they fix your hair. They tuck your hair behind your visor, so you don't want to pull it off because they're gonna have to come fix your hair again. And so you don't want to, take it off every time you have to walk up the stairs. So you trip and you get a lot of bruises on your shins. And, it's just. But the worst part about it is not being able to see whose mark is who. And there's all these people in the scene, and they're like, oh yeah, Sophie's the blue mark, you're the green. And I'm like, dude, every color looks exactly the same. Over everything, like, you just gotta give me white and make everyone else a darker color. Like, that was really hard.
It is funny, like you see Ty and you're like walking into your spot and then Ty will just walk and stand on your mark and you're like, it's that one, babe. It's really sweet.
Just have to gently guide them.
Just gently pushing your shoulder.
Over there, sweetheart. Don't blast me. We're good. Nick, is there an effect that's gotten a lot easier to do for you over time? Like, is there anything that is vastly improved?
Well, I was just thinking of the humiliating things since we're going
Oh,
down.
good. Sure. Yes.
So there's this thing that my stunt guys, Alex and Mish, do really well, which is like quad running. They're on all fours and they can like make it look very graceful and fast and amazing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Nick, so you just finish off the quad run into the scene. But I'm not built to be able to do that. So it ends up me kind of crawling. And then like popping up into frame. And being like, and then carrying on with the scene. So like this shows them some very embarrassing cuts of that.
And when every scene is over, when you pop into the scene, what do you say?
Normally something to that begin. That's like my action thing before I hit someone or something. I roll. Yeah.
Nice.
It's better than that in the movie though.
Sure it is. All right, I think it's about time that we introduce what's going on next.
Sure.
Why don't we? I'm looking at you meaningfully because I'm glad you're all sitting down. You're very polite. Go ahead.
As I alluded to, we're going to show a second clip to you guys. This one's in New York City. And what you saw at the beginning was sort of the best of times for the X-Men, and this is not the best of times for the X-Men after some damage has been done. And the family of the X-Men have been challenged, and this is you seeing them in conflict. Two things. One is the visual effects aren't completely done, though they're pretty close to being done, but there's a couple shots that aren't completely done. The other thing, since there are some kids in the audience, and it says here, please be aware that members in the audience may be under 18 years of age. If you are under a certain age and you've never heard a word that starts with F, it's not fudge. You're going to hear it from one of the characters sitting on this panel, so I warn you of that in advance. For the fans that have heard that before, I think you're going to appreciate it. So here you go. This is something that nobody in the world has ever seen outside of the filmmakers.
Everybody put down your phones.